Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a monstrous replay that we're about to witness in, of course, none other than the KV-5, a tank that many would probably regard as being a fairly mediocre tank that very much needs to be in the right situation. And you're about to see in this replay how even a tank that maybe isn't the pinnacle of World of Tanks, or at least in terms of overpoweredness, at tier 8, how you can still perform admirably and of course have monstrous results like you're about to witness in, of course, this. Now, the KV-5 itself is a tank that has a few weak points, mainly being this droid on the front, this droid, the turret weak point here. However, the rest of the frontal armour is actually pretty strong. You do have the lower plate which can be penned. And of course, if anyone gets around the side of you, they can pen you pretty easily, but as with most tanks, you can't really call that a weak point. Now, in this replay, we are, of course, playing on mines, and the player that we're talking about today is PJ, and he is going to be having a replay that probably no one else has really had in the KV-5, one of the best replays that we can possibly see, at least within this patch, and maybe of all time, to be honest, in the KV-5, because this is just a sheer will and determination of the player that we're witnessing, PJ, and how he can manage to dish out the damage. And hopefully I can kind of showcase how you can do it as well, and how you can replicate PJ's style here in the KV-5. And you'll notice that because he is top tier, he is confident, and confidence in World of Tanks, in my personal opinion, is one of the kind of key things that you need to have to be able to become a best player in the game, to be able to really showcase yourself as a player that doesn't just sit back on your laurels, where you can really be the confident one, the one that drives forward. And often the best players in the game are the ones that are actually on the front line, the person that's kind of pushing forward. And within this replay so far, he's managed to pick up 1100 damage right off the bat. He's taken 0 damage in return. That's exactly what you want to do. I mean, it doesn't take a brain box to work out that if you can continuously deal damage without receiving any, you're going to have a fantastic game. However, what you're seeing here is his first shell that he's taken by the OI, albeit, it is a HE shell, so it's never really going to bounce. However, because he's taken this kind of aggressive place within this matchup where he's come over here, he's just knows that there is probably going to be someone back here. The T-3485 did actually get taken out, but you can see he's now realised that there are tanks coming to the left. And the key thing about being like one of the top players and being able to push out a lot of damage and being able to be one of those that can carry in a tank like the KV-5, albeit that it's not necessarily the easiest tank to play. He's obviously very happy that the Caliban managed to bounce there, since the Caliban has like 290 pen, but he knows very much that that doesn't usually happen when they have such high penetration, so he's not going to kind of cross that bridge again. However, what he's doing now is turning around, and that is exactly what you want to do. If you notice that, one flank needs some attention, if the central area that you can see with the Alpine Tiger, the Borask, all of the kind of tier 8s is pushing through the middle, then he needs to be the one that kind of takes the initiative, relocates. And relocation is something that a lot of players don't take very seriously in World of Tanks, albeit, some people do, and those are usually the best players, the ones that you can only get so good at being able to kind of aim and be able to pinpoint the weak points of tanks. Sometimes it comes into the position where eventually you can't get any better at aiming. Like, if you aim, you hit. If you don't aim and then it doesn't hit, it's not really your fault, it's down to RNG. There's only so far you can really go with it. However, the key thing that you can then do is improve your ability to actually be able to aim at people. And what I mean by that is where you're kind of getting yourself into a position where you're able to aim at more people and therefore guarantee more shots of damage and therefore impact the game better. Now, one thing that you should note is the Borask here is looking like he was kind of trying to get a shot on the back of PJ here. However, because he is playing a very aggressive game in this one, he is going to try and take the hill. And if he can manage to take the hill, and considering his team are kind of falling apart at this moment in time, yeah, he needs to really do something. Now, the KV-2 is not going to bounce off of him unless he's got AP, which the KV-2 does. Now, that is very, very unfortunate for the KV-2, and he's definitely going to suffer the consequences. Now, one thing that you see here is that because of the level of skill of PJ. He's able to track and pen, and this is another thing that is just a pure showcase of what the best players in World of Tanks do and why they're able to have results like this in a tank where maybe you wouldn't have thought you'd be able to have. Oh, he's picked up 3,500 damage. It is looking terrible, I'm not going to lie. They are down, well, double. They've basically, the enemy team have twice the hit points remaining, albeit, you know, they're kind of closing that advantage more and more. And this is where the KV-5 comes into its element. At the end of the game, where it's able to dump shells into lower tier opponents. And yes, you are able to do a lot of damage against lower tier opponents, but when you're in a 1 versus 7, it really does rely on you being able to dish out that damage, and because he's in a heavy tank that actually has decent DPM, it is possible for him to win this. Now, whether he does or not is completely down to the enemy team. Now, what you'll notice is that there is a P43 BIS, he's trying to come into the middle on a one-shot. KV2 is also a one-shot. T3485 is also a one-shot. The SU-130 PM, which is probably the most dangerous tank on the enemy team, is now kind of pushing up as well. And that tank has 1,100 hit points as he shuts down the P43 BIS, making that his 6th kill of the game. Now then, the SU-130 PM, this is a tank you need to get rid of as quickly as possible, and using the pure might of the KV-5, he rams into the SU, pushing him back continuously and shutting him down without receiving a single hit point worth of damage against that tank right there. Now we see the T3485, it's time to go and try and reset the base. Will the enemy team get out? Well, yes they do. They make the vital mistake, or not necessarily the vital mistake, but a fatal error, shall we say. And this is really where the top players capitalise. And when the enemy team are just making stupid decisions where they're continuously making the wrong plays. And of course, as the enemy team probably know at this point, they've made a fatal error. Now the Caliban is a tank that is kind of annoying to come up against, and it is a tank that has managed to deal the damage. However, we all know what the Caliban's weakness is, and that is the fact that the tank gets an awful DPM, and I really mean absolutely terrible. Genuinely one of the worst DPMs that you can have at tier 8, and that's because this thing reloads in about like 30 seconds after you fired both shells. So unless you save your round, and unless you kind of don't fire both at the same time, which is what the Caliban should have done in this engagement, then yeah, it would have gone terribly. And it was all about that shot that he took at the second one that really made the game become more it's easily achievable for PJ. Now the VK105, he's going to struggle going through pretty much anywhere, but PJ notices that the cap circle is the most important thing right now. If he doesn't decap, if he doesn't spot this OI that is sat in the cap circle, then it could be terrible for him. Now the 105 actually pens him there. Which, well, not pens him, but has been just constantly splashing him, but he knows all about it, and he tries and blind fire the VK, who keeps just dishing out like 40 damage a time. It's not crucial that he does kind of avoid that, but it is crucial that he resets a cap, and hence why you're seeing advance towards the OI. Now, with 304 hit points left, he really needs to make it win, and this is a game where I just was astonished at how well and how great he's played, albeit the enemy team definitely did some wrong things within this replay. But he is now a one-shot should the VK actually manage to get round behind him and potentially put a nice round into the back of him. He could be taken out in one shot, but he is now in the cap. It is all down to the VK to make the mistake. That's exactly what the most experienced players will do. You don't have to chase down a VK, and you certainly don't want to be chasing them down when you're in a very slow tank that requires you to kind of not get spotted or anything like that. And when you end the game in style by ammo racking the VK2801 105 with just I don't even know. This is a monstrous gameplay, and that is all I can really say. And of course, PJ having such a great game. An amazing round, 11 kills, picking up 8,500 damage, blocking 4,600 in the KV-5, makes this probably the best KV-5 replay that I've seen, a 1 versus 7 at the end of the game. And yeah, what a crazy result to see. And of course, he is representing the Brazil flag here, which we love to see, and playing in the KV-5. Not necessarily your most OP tank that you'll see, but a fantastic one nonetheless. And of course, thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you want to check out any more replays and gameplay similar to this, any analysis and kind of understanding of World of Tanks, then make sure to subscribe and also check out some of the videos on screen right now. The left one will be on how to play autoloaders and why the top players play autoloaders in World of Tanks. And of course, the right hand side will be the gameplay and tank reviews playlist, which showcases pretty much all of the replays that I've done on World of Tanks and showcased so far. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.